created by, say it with me now, white supremacist capitalist patriarchy.
Okay, please tell me your entire channel is just satire. While I do agree that feminism was started to fight patriarchy, what feminists refer to as patriarchy predates capitalism and white supremacy. More importantly, it goes all the way back to ancient times, can be found in pretty much every ancient culture. Egypt had patriarchy. Greece had patriarchy. Mesopotamia had patriarchy. Ancient China had patriarchy. So to try to blame white supremacy for creating patriarchy requires a willful ignorance to actual history. Furthermore, economics and identity politics are two totally different subject matters. Therefore, you cannot blame capitalism for creating patriarchy. Because once again, patriarchy existed before there was capitalism. Patriarchy existed in pretty much every form of economy, including socialism. The USSR was much more patriarchal compared to the USA during the Cold War, and the CCP ain't doing much better to this day. All capitalism is when the economy is controlled by private owners for profit, and that could literally be anyone, not just the ultra wealthy like a lot of socialists like to pretend is the case online. You can say capitalism is exploitive all day long, but at the end of the day, economics in general is the science of money. And regardless of what economic system you have, there are always going to be those who are willing to exploit their fellow man for a quick gain. The only real difference is capitalism is the only economic system that really incentivizes competition. Capitalism is the only economic system that is built on a foundation of private property rights and free market enterprise. The only reason modern feminists hate capitalism is because modern feminism is all about absolving women of personal responsibility and putting 100% of blame on men or this fictitious patriarchy which hasn't existed since the ratification of the 19th Amendment in the US. The only reason modern feminists tend to lean socialist because in theory, everybody would be paid equally under socialism regardless of what they do. The problem is, one, that has never actually been achieved in any socialist country. Two, it has led to actually bigger gaps in inequality between the working class and the state rather than the bourgeoisie. Again, just because you don't have any major corporations doesn't mean there isn't any exploitation. And three, modern women seem to be more worried about getting equal rights, power, and privilege without taking on equal expectations, responsibilities, or consequences. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, men simply work longer hours and significantly more overtime. Furthermore, there is no demographic of workers who are working more than married men with kids. Because as much as y'all like to blame the patriarchy, women are by their own choice still holding men to traditional gender standards. To this day, men are still the primary provider in 70% of relationships and families. Because only men are being held to this standard, only men are incentivized to work as much as they do. Women don't have to work as much because they can always find men to take care of them, and they know this and actively hold men to that standard as a result. To quote Thomas Sowell, what is your fair share of someone else's work? And I know a lot of the women are going to sit there, we do more unpaid labor. No, you don't. If someone is paying for your house, paying your bills, and all you're asked to do is some basic household chores, you're not doing unpaid labor. You're paid with a roof over your head and having zero responsibility to yourself. If you are being provided for and financially taken care of by another person, doing the bare minimum around the house is not unpaid labor. At the end of the day, there is no patriarchy in modern America, and patriarchy has nothing to do with capitalism or white supremacy. And the fact that you feel the need to attach white supremacy to patriarchy is a really disgusting thing to do. The concept of white supremacy has nothing to do with sexism and everything to do with racism. And when you go back into history books and really look at the details, it's always been male minorities who have suffered the most under white supremacy. It was mostly men who were brought over during the transatlantic slave trade. And to this day, 90% of black individuals serving time in prison are male. And above all, black men are most likely to be falsely accused of a crime they didn't commit. So if it's the male minorities who are suffering the most under white supremacy, how on earth does it have anything to do with patriarchy? The reality is modern feminism is the Achilles heel of left-wing politics right now. Because all modern feminism does is spread fear and hatred against men while absolving women of any responsibility for their own actions and behavior. And the problem with that is it's not just white hetero men who suffer. Men can be gay, men can be trans, men can be black, Latino, or any ethnicity. And by alienating what is actually 50% of the population and constantly dogging on them and using them as scapegoats, well, you're just shooting yourself in the foot right there. And the thing about it is people are starting to get wise to male feminists like you. People are starting to realize that the majority of male feminists actually don't believe the things they are saying and don't really care about the issues they speak on. But they know speaking on it is a good way to get a large female following online. And it's not surprising that so many male feminists online eventually get exposed for being predators. So tell me, boy, how long do you think you'll last on this app?